Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very senior and celebrated professional from Chicago, USA, Dr. Zafra Lerman. Zafra, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Lerman is the president of the Malta Conferences Foundation, which uses science diplomacy as a bridge to peace in the Middle East. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by a member of the US Congress and a member of the French Parliament. She's an author of a book titled Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey, and she's the recipient of the International Advocate for Peace Award from the Cardozo Journal of Conflict Resolution. Previous awardees include Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Zafra, you began as a chemist conducting research on isotope effects across top institutions worldwide. How did that scientific journey shape your worldview and humanitarian work?
I spend my time in, as you said, different institution, but I got involved in this work when I was at Cornell University, and I worked with a very special person by the name of Frank Long. Frank was an excellent physical chemist, but in addition, he was very involved in arms control and disarmament and peace. He, as a matter of fact, got a medal from Indira Gandhi for his effort. And I got very fascinated by seeing his activities and his colleagues that work with him, that were distinguished scientists from all over, the president of MIT, Jerry Wisner, that was the science advisor to Kennedy, and Frank Long by himself was on the science advising committee to presidents from Eisenhower. So I was very involved with him both in my research on isotope effect, but in his other activities, and then slowly, without even feeling, I got very interested in that, and I felt that it's a responsibility of scientists to really make the world a better place. Because as you know, science can prolong life, but science can cut life short.
Correct.
And I wanted to make sure that I am involved in scientific issues that prolong life. And this is how I got involved
Fascinating.
in all these issues.
Amazing. And as you look back, how do you connect your scientific training, your passion for human rights, and your belief in education as a force for peace?
Each of them has a reason why I got involved. If you talk about education, I believe that science education is a human rights that belongs to all. And if we will not make sure that everybody get a scientific, technological education, we'll form two class societies. Ones that has a background in science and technology, and ones that is not.
Right.
And the other group will not be able to participate in society. So for me, it became a human rights. So the education and human rights go together. And by working on human rights, risking my own life in the Soviet Union, I felt that it's not enough to make the world a better place. And I was looking for a way to get involved in peace. And I really got involved very early in before it was called science diplomacy, with Frank Long for Cornell,
Mm,
because for Albert Einstein's 100th birthday, there was a group of people that founded the Albert Einstein Peace Prize
mm,
Foundation. And Frank was on the board, and I was in the executive committee. And I already started working then on peace issues.
mm,
And everybody was a scientist in my different endeavors. And why science? Because science is different than any other subject in the world. Maybe music come
yeah.
close to
Mm,
science.
mm,
It's international. It doesn't see religion, borders, culture, language. I always say that a chemist in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania can communicate to
mm,
a chemist in Bethlehem on the West Bank
mm,
without knowing each other language, just with their chemistry, and they will understand each other.
mm, mm,
So it's international, and scientists, I think, have the responsibility to use their science
mm,
for peace, because weapon of mass destruction
mm.
could not happen without scientists.
Absolutely. Well said. Let's now talk about the Malta Conferences Foundation. The foundation uses science diplomacy to promote peace in the Middle East. How did the
Correct.
idea first take shape after September 2001?
I chaired for the American Chemical Society, that it's the largest single subject society, the most influential, very international. Also, it's called American Chemical Society. I chaired the committee on scientific freedom and human rights
Mm,
for 26 years.
mm,
And after September 11, we had different subcommittees. It's almost under the umbrella of international activities.
mm,
And under international activities, there were four subcommittees, that one of them was mine, scientific freedom and human rights.
mm,
And we were assigned to come out with an idea outside of the box.
mhm,
Now, the period was after September 11, but in the Middle East, it was the second Intifada,
mm,
that a lot of people were killed, was Palestinian, Israelis, suicide bombs all over in Israel, in cafes, on buses, on every
mm.
transportation. And I said, this has to stop.
Correct.
And it was a very tough period in the Middle East. So I was subcommittee 4. So each of the other subcommittees came with their ideas that were good ideas. The subcommittee on South America said,
Mm,
we should do something together with scientists in South America.
mm,
And then came my term, and the room was full with people. And there were two people from Cuba that I invited for a symposium, and they told me, I'll tell you what they said after that. So then I came with the idea of the Malta Conference. Now, what does it mean to your science diplomacy is a bridge to peace in the Middle East?
mm,
I suggested that we bring together scientists from all over the Middle East.
mm,
All the countries participate there. No accompanying members, not to dilute the interaction, and chemists can understand when dilute the solution, the reaction is slower. And everybody stays in the same hotel, eats the meals together, tours together, no separation for each other,
mm, mm,
and several Nobel laureates for 5 days to develop collaboration on issues that one country cannot solve alone, like Water, for example, the aqueducts don't know exactly where the British put the lines on the map.
Mm.
So the water aqueduct
Yeah.
underground
Yeah.
pass a lot of countries. And that I feel that by first they will see each other, they will have a platform to see what unites them, then what separates them.
Mm.
They will have a platform to stop demonizing
Mm.
the unknown other.
Correct.
And they will develop friendships that can overcome chasm of distrust and
Mm.
intolerance. So the Cubans that were in the room said that when I gave my idea, it was like a bomb fell in the room. It was so silent that you can hear the people breathing. They thought I'm completely
Mm.
out of my
Correct.
mind.
Correct. Correct. But tell me,
But
in conferences like this, where you mentioned there are Nobel laureates, there are political leaders, scientists from across different.
no I saw in your question that you mentioned political leader.
Hmm.
We don't have political leaders
Okay.
on purpose.
Okay.
What we have is always the president of the country where we are
Okay.
and ambassador join in different events, but
Okay.
we don't invite
I
political.
understand. But then, given the diversity of people, how do you balance political sensitivities while maintaining scientific focus?
This is the great thing about science,
Hmm.
that it does not matter from where you come, the
Hmm.
science is the same. So we have workshops. The workshops are interactive workshops. The
Hmm.
people can talk about everything
Hmm.
concerned. The workshop is on water, on energy, on
Hmm.
climate change, on science education for all. And this unites the people. Then, in the social event,
Hmm.
people will discuss, if an Israeli
Hmm.
sits with an Iraqi, where
Hmm.
the Iraqis told me when they came the first time that it was the first time in their life that
Hmm.
they saw Israelis,
Hmm.
that they always knew that the Israelis it looked like monsters. This is what they were taught. So this develops, you are already have so much in common that you can discuss the differences.
Hmm. Hmm. Very interesting. And what role do you think women scientists have played in advancing the goal of the foundation and the
It's
conferences?
very interesting, women, you ask. In the first Malta, we had only 4 women.
Hmm.
In Malta 10, the 10th one, we had 40
Wow.
women.
Hmm.
The number of participants, we keep maximum 100, never passing the 100, because it's very hard for women in many Middle East countries
Hmm.
to travel alone.
Yeah.
We are not allowing accompanying members.
Hmm.
So this is a big achievement, but very interesting.
Hmm.
The women asked to start a women forum
Hmm.
that will be only for women, where they can discuss the problems they face in their countries and in order to succeed in
Hmm.
their profession.
Hmm.
And with that, the women became very, very united. They
Hmm.
call each other sisters, and they became very active as this one body that they wanted to form
Hmm.
in the whole conference.
Very
So
interesting.
it's very interesting how from no women they became a power.
Very interesting. Zafra,
Very
yeah, let's now talk about your book, Human Rights and Peace, A Personal Odyssey. Your book blends your memoir, science, and activism, which is a rare combination. How did you find your voice to tell such a multifaceted story?
it's a memoir. My life was very
Absolutely.
multifaceted. So it's a memoir that I wrote about my life. My life had ups and downs and
Yeah.
challenges, and both personal and professional, and I was under pressure to write a book for many years.
Mm,
It started with people wanted a book on my methods of teaching science through art, music, dance, drama, rap, poetry, animation, what you want. That became very successful with underprivileged students around the
mm,
world. So, but when you work on human rights and peace, you don't have time to write books.
correct.
So I did not have time. Then I had a lot of success with dissidents in my work in human rights. I brought out of the Soviet Union many people out of jail, prevented executions. So people said, why don't you write it to other
Mm,
people? And then came science diplomacy for peace in the Middle East. So by that stage, and I have to be honest, a person said to me, we are all volunteers in the Malta
mm,
conferences. We don't have one paid employee. We all work as volunteers.
mm,
And we have to pay for all the people to come to the conference.
mm.
So we have to raise the money.
Yeah.
So somebody said to me, if you write a book, this will help you in the fundraising
Mm,
too, because you will have a chance to talk about your book. People will hear, people will buy the book, and all the proceeds of the book goes towards science diplomacy as a bridge
mm.
to peace. And
Very
I don't
interesting.
take a penny of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I said, I have to write about what everybody was interested in,
Mm,
not just about Malta. And because people today don't like to read very much, I have to keep it not above 100 pages. Because if you see I ordered for Amazon a book that was interested in something like that came.
mm.
I got
That
scared.
is true. That is true. But how did you
So this
balance?
is how the book came
Mm,
into being.
fascinating. Fascinating.
But I wrote it during a very tough time in my own life because my husband, that was behind the book and was very helpful reading the chapter, developed cancer
Oh,
and
sorry.
passed away. So the book is dedicated to
Mm,
him. Also, I wanted
thank
the
you.
book to come
Mm,
for
thank you
him
for
to see.
sharing. Thank you for sharing this. Uh, Zafra, how did you balance recounting personal experiences of danger and diplomacy while ensuring your focus remained on human rights and peace?
What do you mean by that?
You know, you've talked about all the challenges you faced, all the work that you've been doing, and you are talking a lot about human rights and peace while you've been through a turmoil yourself. How did you
So,
maintain as an author the balance?
oh, it was very tough. It was very tough, but I just, the human rights and peace is very important in my life.
Absolutely.
And I thought that if I write a book, and the book is really for a lot of people, I came to the United States as a single mom
Mm,
and had to balance taking care of my son, working. I came as a postdoc on a stipend. As you
mm,
know, I have a PhD, doctorate in chemistry.
yeah,
The postdoc stipend is really not much money, and
correct.
I did not have relatives, did not have any help from anybody in the US. I didn't know anybody. Today, I don't know if it was so smart when I look back at my life.
I
I
know.
am not sure, but I was very determined on what I was determined to make sure that my son has everything in the world.
Yeah.
So he, from a very young age, traveled with me everywhere. And then I had a wonderful husband that helped me. But the first few years were very, very tough. And you
Mm.
ask a question that a lot of people are asking, and I'm asking.
Mm.
I'm asking the same
Right.
question because I see today people for postdoc, even if they are American,
Mm.
and they get help. And when you have a child already in all my degrees, bachelor,
Mm.
master, PhD was,
Mm.
for the bachelor, I was still married, but then I got a divorce and had to do everything by myself
Mm.
with my son,
Mm.
with no
Mm.
help from
Mm.
anybody else.
Yeah.
Therefore, I thought that there is a message here to single mom, to immigrants. You can do it if you
Absolutely.
want.
And
There
that's a
is a
very powerful
message.
message.
Everybody can leave this planet a better place than they found it when they were born.
Very, very wise words indeed. I have time for two more questions for you.
Yeah.
Your book was published a few months before you received the International Advocate for Peace Award in 2025. How do all these honors influence your next steps?
Oh, let me tell you, I have more than 40 awards.
I know.
This was just one more on the
Yeah.
list. The work I'm doing, Boston human rights, peace, education, I really don't do it for getting
I
awards.
know you don't.
My award is to see a person that suffered in the Soviet Union, and suddenly I see this person in an American chemical society, a
Mm.
functioning chemist in the US. This is my award.
Mm.
To be recognized, sure, it's very it tells you that there are people that appreciate what you are
Correct.
doing, that
Correct.
appreciate what you are doing.
Mm.
And this is a good feeling to see that it's appreciated. You don't do it really for
Mm.
all this glamorous awards, but and in addition, you have a big event that you can invite all your friends to
Correct.
come and get together. When
Yes.
I got the award, the Advocate for Peace Award, there were 150 people that came from all over.
Mm.
Not so often I have the opportunity to see everybody. So this is the advantage. But I don't do my work. And as a matter of fact, the work in the Middle East has to be kept going on a very tight rope. We have to publish because otherwise we cannot raise money.
Mm.
But we really have to keep it quiet.
Right. I
So
agree.
a lot of the work I do is not for publicity on the pages of the
I'm
newspaper.
sure. I'm sure. But my last question for you, if my viewers and listeners uh, who will listen to everything you've said with so much attention want to remember only one message from your book, Human Rights and Peace, what would it be?
The message from my book is you can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it. And please do it.
Hmm.
We'll have a different world
Yeah.
if everybody will do. I used to tell my students
Hmm.
every class, when you go to sleep at night,
Hmm.
think what did you do good for somebody else? And
Correct.
if you did, you had a very good day.
Correct. Correct. And on that note, Zafra, I just want to say the powerful four words, you can do it. What a fascinating conversation this has been. What an incredible life you have led, and how much you have given back to society through all the work that you have done, starting as a scientist, a chemist, to getting nominated for a Peace Prize, to being recognized over 40 times. Thank you again for speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
Thank you very much, and I hope your listener will read my book, Human Rights of Peace, A Personal Odyssey.
Absolutely. I would strongly recommend to all my viewers and listeners to read Dr. Zafra Lerman's book. Thank you again, and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.